Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. The power rankings are back, that's why I am wearing my Oakleys today. It is going to be hot in here because we will be discussing all of the heat. Who stacks up where Noah's 9 and Issam's Mud Mountain are back. But before we will reach that part, we will discuss a couple of other news features. And of course, there can be no Issam's Mud Mountain without Issam. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I will take off my cycling goggles now because it would be rude to keep them on for the entirety of this podcast. It's good to be back with the power rankings, Issam, but before we reach that part, let's discuss a few points from the news, maybe starting with the World Cup in Sardinia this weekend. Fortunately, very small start list, very limited number of riders making the journey there. A bit better than the depths we had in Val di Sole, more riders doing their training camp there, but I guess I don't really want to spend too much time talking about this because it's not unexpected, is it? We know at this time of the year the riders are in Spain, they're doing their training camps, it's hard to sustain form, it's the time to rebuild. Christmas period is coming, 2, maybe 3 weeks in Spain. That's really been the tactic for most riders for the last 15 years, and if anything, I just think it's utterly insane that the World Cup still hasn't done something about it. They keep coming up with, but if we don't organize a race, they will just skip next weekend and they will go to the Super Prestige or there will be an X2O race. Dude, you organize the Super Prestige yourself. Like, please, don't come up with these excuses. Do something.
Do something. Yeah, it's a terrible position, I guess. That race is in, and it's every year. It's a similar story, and as long as nothing really changes significantly in the calendar overall, and in the workload and the pressure that is, how important that Christmas period is. I don't think it will change all that much in the next coming years, and it's kind of weird that it hasn't really changed or there hasn't been really looked into, and it really puts a race on such a date in I wouldn't say in trouble, but it just it makes it less significant in a way, which is a shame because for a World Cup it normally should be a race of significance, and of course the riders make the race, and the riders also have to be sensible with the programming, with their schedule, with the training. And it is what it is. And, I don't think that anyone should blame the riders. The riders are just trying to negotiate this schedule and workload the best they can and in their best abilities. And this is probably arguably the best thing that they could do. You could maybe try and have a longer stay in Italy and in Sardinia and have a good training camp and all that. But that is also going to be quite the hassle, and you don't know how the weather will be. The weather seems to be great there, so that is a plus. But overall, you have to make decisions, and this is definitely one of those decisions which is, sure, you're going to miss out on a World Cup, but you just know that it will benefit you in the long run, especially in that Christmas period that is so packed but also so important.
For sure, you can't really blame the riders, and some of them are doing the training camp there, but it's difficult. You saw last year that the weather guarantees there are just not as good as in Spain, so it's a tough decision to make, and ultimately the World Cup should kind of step over that, and this also means like the classification is good. You can see that many people don't really care about it, so they should try and make a change so that this doesn't happen anymore. I guess with Sardinia, though, they maybe have a organizer which can survive this, because this race is taking place in a ghost town without any paved roads really. It's just a bunch of dirt roads. There's a few houses, very few people live there, like 200. It's far away from really the population of the island as well. It's really not a race that's designed to be funded by spectators. It's funded to get the support from the region and to tourism promotion through that. Val di Sole also kind of was that way, remote location, but they still hoped to get more spectators in from Milan, and we worked with those organizers and they asked us for advice like, hey, how can we get more people to get a weekend going here? How can we convince Belgians to come here to ski? Because the region wanted to not just promote tourism, they wanted to see winter tourism. That's the risk here for Sardinia as well. If they want to actually see an influx of people and spectators and also ticket sales, then it might become an issue in the long run. But I have no contact with these organizers, so I can't speak for that. But what is clear is that this money is coming from the region to promote tourism. Moving on to the next point then is some communications. I always think Alpecin has a horrible communications department. This sponsor announcement, it's the 4th of December and now, oh yeah, by the way, our title sponsor, which was already rumored in the papers in March, yeah, those reports are correct. They are indeed not extending their contract, and like they just drop, oh, Eco extends, Zwift extends. Transfers, we haven't really done our communication. New kit, you might see that at the race in Baal on January 1st, but we're not going to do an announcement. But then, Visma, they just on a random Monday morning when I'm driving back from Flamanville, stopping at Omaha Beach, they just out of nowhere, like 9:50, the workday started. Well, we just made this graphic. Let's post it. Wout van Aert Cyclocross program. Here it is. Oh, a lot of people are calling us. A lot of people are calling us. Hey, there's no World Championship on this. Is Van Aert doing it? Well, you will hear from us at 2 p.m. today, and then they put out some extra, well, maybe last-minute decision like last year, but for now, this is the plan. We will see how things go. Yada, yada. Like, come on, it's the big 2020-25.
It wasn't even a graphic. It was a reel. And then you had to wait like every race they put it on, and it was like, oh, this is the first race, this is the second race, this is the third race. They had you like sit through the whole reel. I mean, they had also communique, but
engagement farming.
It cannot be more Dutch than that, to be honest. To be on a Monday morning thing that you're that important to it is big news, and it was picked up eventually. But the timing was just so off. I don't know. Maybe I guess they were maybe surprised a little bit by the announcement of Van der Poel. I guess I don't really know, and that they thought, oh, we also have to announce it, and it looked like it was a bit rushed. I have no idea, to be honest, but it was not ideal for us. But eventually we were able to pick it up, and we also tried to break that news. And yeah, I mean. Cyclocross at times, when you look at the marketing department and all that, and you have a lot more knowledge about that than I do, but from an outsider I look into that, and I see how they try to do things at times, and it's facepalm moments at times that you look at and you be like, what are we trying to do here, guys? What is going on? I mean, I was speechless when I saw it, and I didn't really understand what the point was of trying to announce something like that on a Monday morning. But anyways, they probably thought it was useful to do, and the right thing to do, but I don't really think it was.
Could have gone a lot better, a lot smoother. Normally they always rumor these things and put out like the early signals, the warning flags go up, and the media reports, oh, it's expected somewhere next week, so everybody is like on call and on report, and then they know like, okay, that day Wout van Aert will speak to some media, or at least his director or somebody from the team will speak to media, but that wasn't really the case this year, so whatever. I think this is not really criticism of Visma, because I just said Alpecin also is quite bad with their communications, and there's all these other teams that are trash at communicating, and that's kind of a general criticism I have on cycling. The marketing is just not good. The marketing of cyclocross is not good either. I think that must have been last year, unless it's already 2 years ago, but we spent at some point, I think, an extensive episode in which I spoke about like marketing of cyclocross, and spoke from my perspective as a master in marketing to kind of just shine a light on how companies market and how other sports market, and then how cyclocross does it. But enough for that. Then Issam, this week we also published a story on our Substack. This was about the Olympic potential of cyclocross. We've been covering that for the longest time, for really 2 years now, already before that first rumor came during the Paris Olympics. We've been following the venues, and I guess I just kind of want to give a brief overview. It seems likely that cyclocross is going to be added to the 2030 Olympics. Reports indicate that USA Cycling is already negotiating to also have it added to the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. That would be in 2034. I've always maintained the stance that only if cyclocross gets added in the long term, it's really going to change something for the sport. If it's only there in 2030, nothing is really going to change. Great opportunity for the riders that are there. The sport will remain the same. However, does it get added in the long term, then the sport can fundamentally change. Mainly in terms of investment, sponsors coming in, teams coming in, road teams allowing their riders to do it. And one of our listeners also made a really good point earlier this year. He mentioned that it could also mean a really big shift in the calendar that we see, that we're going to see a lot more races take place in other countries due to them kind of founding their cyclocross program, and that could mean we're going to get a lot of races in regions that currently already host winter sports, because their feasibility to host winter sports is going to decline, and cyclocross and mountain bike would then be logical extensions. Mountain bike already happening, of course. Val di Sole, Legay, just some examples of that. That's kind of where we are now. 2 venues have come forward, La Planche de Belleville and then Besançon. Planche de Belleville is really far away from the hosting region, so that seems unlikely. Besançon, they're not sure yet if they can get the snow. In fact, it's not certain yet if the snow is going to be there. Then there was a few weeks ago a letter of the snow sports. They lobbied against cyclocross and cross-country running becoming part of the Winter Olympics. That was big news, and it was reported as a major setback for cyclocross. They think the snow sports, that is, that cyclocross would ruin the identity of the Winter Olympics, and it would lose their unique character of being snow and ice sports. However, these sports have no say in which sports are going to get added. That's up to the French organizing committee. They seem convinced that the winter sport needs to change. They want to make history. They want to become the first place that does this. They want to become a trendsetter, that for always that will be the first time maybe that they get certain African countries in, the first time that there's multiple medalists from Africa through cross-country running, the first time ever that there's these non-snow and ice sports, so they seem destined on that. Furthermore, the IOC with their new president also seems very convinced that the format of the Winter Olympics needs to change. I mean, 2030, France, that only came together last minute. They're struggling to find hosts. It's expensive. There's fewer and fewer places that have enough snow. They are finally realizing that global warming is a major threat to the Winter Olympics, and they are willing to adapt to that. So these snow sports, they can try and preserve their own kind of little corner of money and participation, but really the train seems to have left the station. So that is where we are now, Issam, and I am still a bit cautious, but I do try to be cautiously optimistic about the future of cyclocross.
We have to, eh? I mean, it's a sport we cover in a way, so I guess we have to be optimistic. But I think there are definitely some signs that we can go off on that look promising. I definitely think that it would be a good thing if it's not, a one-off, but we can also have a sort of confirmation. If that would be the case, that would be great for a sort of long-term project. I don't think that 2 Olympic Games will be enough for the sport to grow, but it's difficult, I guess, because the federations will definitely take the sport more seriously if it becomes Olympic, and I think that you can see that on several levels already. But it is definitely something that I would say is a big positive. If the federations will look at cyclocross as a opportunity more than a something that you can maybe use as development and nothing more, and try to support a little bit the riders, that is, we kind of have to get off that and see it more as a opportunity in which you can really have riders succeed and perform very well and make a career out of. But I think, if you look at the sport, there is a lot that has to change. I mean, it goes into the World Cup, the way the UCI looks at cyclocross, the way road teams look at cyclocross as well, which is changing, but and that obviously, that to be honest, changed already a little bit without the Olympics. But I think with the Olympics and the importance of that could definitely change a little bit more. And it's you can just see that when a sport becomes Olympic, it gets more traction, it gets more attention, it becomes just that little bit more international, and that might be the push that the sports need. But yeah, I think if I look at those things, I definitely think that I'm optimistic. I'm just questioning, and I guess that's where my pessimism comes from a little bit. Is the sport ready? is the sport ready to take the next step, and take this opportunity of becoming Olympic, and really seize the opportunity, and become something that, that comes in the equivalent of road cycling? Is the product ready? Are the teams ready? Are the riders ready? Are the organizers ready? I don't know about that, to be honest. I think that maybe the federations could be ready in terms of support, but it is a big ask, and I don't know if just a simple, being admitted into the Olympic Games, to win Olympic Games, and actually have your event, your discipline there, and representing that, if that is going to be enough for the change that we kind of want to see in the sport. But I definitely feel that it is possible, but I just have my doubts, and I think those are, to be honest, fair doubts. I don't know how you look at that.
Let me go off a few things that I wrote down before this episode on this topic, because you're right that just becoming Olympic won't necessarily change everything for the sport. There are plenty of Olympic sports where you are worse off in terms of finances than in cyclocross. Cyclocross has a commercial footing, which many other sports don't. There's plenty of these winter sports that are completely dependent on the funding from the Olympic Committee. Take, for instance, parts of freestyle skiing, moguls, very difficult discipline to really make money in. Big air. There's some of these events where there's the superstar effect, and some of the top athletes get a lot of money. They are sponsored by Red Bull because they do these crazy tricks, but the drop off is super, super steep. So some sports are held together even more by their Olympic status than cyclocross would be. But at the same time, there is also the other part. Like, cyclocross will not be the smallest winter sport, it won't be the biggest. It won't be like biathlon. Biathlon has all its ducks in a row. It has the interviews in English, in the native countries like the French. There's a whole bunch of stuff. They have the TV coverage. They have an app. They have like everything in a row. They have their World Cup. The World Cup is the most important. Almost nobody will skip a World Cup. Lots of commentary, lots of different camera angles, lots of different analysis. It's really good. It's really an example cyclocross can look at before they start comparing themselves to Formula One. That said, it will help, and it will force a certain degree of change in an entire way. You can't expect that it's just going to like change everything for the race organizers, the teams, the marketing, which we just discussed. That's not magically going to become better. It won't be done overnight. But for the federations, that's kind of what I've been focusing on this year. I've spoken to a lot of people, and that's also what I wrote the article on our Substack about. They are ready, some of them, or at least they're in the process of getting ready, and they are very much talking about it. There is a real big differentiation between Belgium, semi-Netherlands, but especially Belgium, where this Olympic is kind of just seen as like a bypass. Oh, this is just another box we can take. Ah, cool. Van Aert, Olympic champion, maybe Thibaut Nys, whatever. Nice, cool. Outside of Belgium, their federations are lurking for this money. They are making plans. They are making proposals. They know that they need to lobby if this happens. They know that they need like some sort of tangible result to show, hey, this is what we did with barely any money. Please give us more money. Please give us some of that cash. We can transform this. This will help our other programs. They are busy. They are preparing. And they're kicking things into motion already. Like, they need some results to show. They're not wasting around. I spoke with probably 10 to 15 federations this year about it. Some of the bigger programs, but especially some of the smaller programs like Lithuania, kicking things into action because of Olympic status. Like, literally building from ground zero. There is nothing. This guy who I spoke with, their national coach, who also organizes the Velo CX, he said, well, I read that it could become Olympic. I have a big passion. I had this race for years here. It was always just a local race, so I thought, well, we need to change something. I made a UCI race. I took these riders just with my own camper van, my own money, to the European Championships. We'll be back for the World Championships. Like, things are getting underway, because of the potential. So I do think that in the mid-long run, there will be significant improvements. And yes, it will be difficult. They're starting from scratch, but they are already starting.
Yeah, and I think that is also kind of what you meant with it has to be something that is not only a one-off, but it has to be a long-term plan that the Olympics somewhat tries to involve cyclocross into the next coming editions, and that is arguably going to help when you have such a process, because I think that when you have a one-off, I'm afraid that then maybe the interest then kind of goes away completely and just probably leaves us into having nothing. So I think that this is a very good sign that we are seeing federations actually trying to make something out of it and seeing the importance of such an event. But let me put it this way: the question that I somewhat have as well is, how realistic is it that we are going to see? Like, what kind of federations are we talking about? Because are we going to look into the more the traditional road countries in a way, if you can call them traditional, but you know what I mean. Some call them traditional, and or are we more looking into maybe the countries that do quite well in winter sports, or are there more countries as well that see an opportunity of getting a medal or at least having good results, because they normally would not do well on an Olympic event, especially in the winter sports. How is that, and is the money also an issue, or is it something that that is present and that is ready to use, and federations don't really have that issue?
Before we can really answer that, Issam, I think it's important to know like what time frame you're trying to talk about, so we can phase it into like different time frames. So I spoke a bit with the French, and I spoke also with some of the Italians. Like, these are traditional road countries, you could say, right? But also traditional cyclocross countries. They have funding, they have their programs. Their programs are both doing quite good, right? Same with the Czech system. These are three countries that are already kind of there, right? Like, after the Netherlands and Belgium, these would be the three countries you name together with Great Britain, right?
Yeah, I had my mic muted, but yeah, correct.
So they are already quite far there, and for them, like, it would get more money, and above all, what these people say is it would allow our riders to stay in cross, because their road teams allow them to do track now, but not cross. Difference: Olympic status. They would allow them to do cross because Olympic status then as well, so that means that we can keep our best riders, the riders that we develop in the sport. Leo Bisio, probably not as likely to be drawn away. Somebody like Aubin Sparfel, not as likely to be drawn away. They're still there now, but who says what happens in the long run? So that's that tier of riders and countries. They are looking at more money, especially more commercial interest. They develop the riders already quite extensively, like especially Italy has been really going at it. On the men's side, Czech Republic has also been headed in the right direction recently. These countries are all trending in the right direction. So for them, the difference it would make is money and the appeal. Then we come to a second tier of riders and countries, Issam, and I guess you could say these are countries that have some presence in cyclocross. Some of them are, like, I haven't really been able to speak with anybody of the Swiss Federation yet. I know they're hurting. The same with the Germans. I haven't been able to speak with somebody there, but those two federations are hurting. So I wish I could have some more insights on that. I unfortunately don't. But I did speak extensively at the European Championships with the Slovakian head coach, Vančko. He is also the road coach there. And Slovakia, with Chladonova, has produced a real talent in recent years. I wouldn't really say this was ever a powerhouse. They organized the World Championships in Poprad, but they won 3 World Championship medals. So let's not pretend like this is a major powerhouse. But they are there. They always have a team. They sometimes race the relay. They're doing quite well. He says that in recent years his program has got more money because the government believes in cyclocross as a safe way to introduce people into cycling and get a healthy lifestyle. But his overarching point was, hey, I can get even more money. Right now, I have 2 vans. We stack as much bikes in there. Literally, as I was speaking with him, like they were breaking down their stuff, they were pushing it in the back to drive back to Slovakia. I also spoke with the Slovakian ambassador, and the ambassador to Belgium, like, it's hardly ever that I see a political figure at cyclocross race, at a European championship, but he was very friendly and happy to talk with me. And he said, well, yeah, there's this rumor about it being Olympic, and that's also kind of why I'm here, because I wanted to see what this was all about. So perhaps that's kind of misleading in my perception, but a country like Slovakia, they already have a presence at the Winter Olympics. Kind of the same perhaps as Sweden, who I also spoke with. Like, these countries, they are there. They're thinking more money, we'll get more of our riders in, we'll be able to offer a bigger program. But especially the Swedish coach was very kind of realistic about it. Like, cyclocross, it needs to become more popular, first of all, in my country before I can really do anything. Biathlon, cross-country skiing, that's where the guns with the big VO2 max go. They don't go to cycling, so we need to work on the overall popularity, and maybe cyclocross can help with that. With more money, we can put together a better program. So that's the second tier of countries. I would maybe say the United States could go into that category. They are making some movements as well with their U23 emerging elite program this year. They have a couple of riders over here for longer. So I guess it's always country specific, but this would be my second tier of countries. Issam, they aren't like the next bubble of countries after the Netherlands and Belgium, but they do have a presence. Like, they have some money, it would get more, the popularity could increase, and they would also benefit from their best riders staying in, but they want to get more riders in first. So that would be my second tier of countries, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, but I feel like they are also somewhat dependent, I guess, on the popularity overall of the of the sport, because to get that traction into from the people and from the federation overall, and to get the money, to get the finance ready for such a project. I feel that, but maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the marketing of the sport arguably also has a very big role to play here. And maybe my question is somewhat as well, and if I answer my question myself first, is I don't think that if you look at cyclocross at the moment, I don't think that it is that the marketing is up there, right? And then with marketing, I'm talking about the social media, but mainly the broadcasting, I guess, and the opportunity that you can have with broadcasting, because if you look at the broadcasting where it is right now, I think the cameras definitely have improved, but overall there hasn't been really something significant in terms of changes in the broadcasting in the last maybe 20 years, maybe even more. And I feel that is definitely, if you want to make the sport bigger, sure, making it Olympic will help. Sure, it will help if the federations will care about it enough to have programs. But I feel that the sport itself maybe also needs to be changing in terms of how we visualize the sport, and I guess how we broadcast the sport to the other countries. And I feel that is not engaging enough at the moment. We are too dependent on riders, and not so much dependent on the action itself. While we have plenty of good races when the riders, the likes of a Van der Poel, for example, are not there. Yet I feel that the sport currently is still too dependent on names, and is also using those names for engagement. And I feel that is definitely, I look at that and I feel that is an issue. But do you think that is a major factor, or do you feel that if the federations will take it seriously, maybe that will come along in the long run?
I would agree with you that it needs to become better, but I don't see this as a major issue for the appeal of new-ish countries, because take a look at speed skating. What can we say about the marketing of that? Also not good. They also lack storytelling. They lack new visions on camera perspectives. They don't really implement any new things there. But still, you see in speed skating quite often that there's these countries that start a new speed skating program, they open an ice ring, they get the going, and it leads to some relatively tangible results. I mean, the best example of that is France. Ahead of being announced or awarded the 2030 Olympics, they kickstarted their program, they got people in from skilering, and now with Lubino, they have a guy who has been killing it and flying on the 5K, winning in Salt Lake City within 2 or 3 years, even though the marketing is not that great. And that touches on the overlap part, which is why I think it's a very good example. It's not just about cyclocross. So many people in cycling do cyclocross at a young age because it builds the skills. It is a good way to remain active in the winter, but they flow out at some point because it doesn't really lead anywhere. There's no pathway, there's no real interest, and that would change. So the overall appeal of just cycling, which in itself can be bigger, don't get me wrong, is something that benefits cyclocross. So what would it do? I mean, let me just read this quote from Tautvydas Lukas, who is the Lithuanian coach who I spoke about. He said, organizing the Velo CX race is just part of the plan to show Lithuanians that you can become a cyclocross rider. It all starts with the belief, and that's currently missing in Lithuania. People sometimes see the sport on TV, although it's hard to find. However, even on the road, they don't envision themselves making the big stage one day. The Olympics, however, speak to the imagination, and that will also be the case for cyclocross. My cyclocross race is a small piece to the puzzle. The other efforts bring my riders to the European Championships. This helps them see that they can become a racer and that Lithuanians can race on the big stage. So I think that's the main thing here, is some of these opportunities open up and people can see themselves going somewhere. Bobsled, there is a team from Jamaica participating, and you cannot tell me that that is because of the great marketing of the Bobsled World Cup. In skeleton, there's also always a couple of these, well, countries who you wonder, hey, how did you really get into this? Like, it's difficult. And that will be the same with cyclocross. Like, there will always be at the Olympics a couple of people participating in the spirit of the Olympics where participation is a goal in itself. And that's fine, but there will also be countries like, I don't know, let's move to that third tier of riders, or third tier of country and riders, where there is nothing right now. Like Portugal, for instance, they kickstarted their cyclocross program 2 years ago now, and they are also building, and they're talking about, Portugal doesn't really have much success at the Winter Olympics, and this for our country can be an opportunity to get riders there. We can train for this at home. The Greek Federation feels the same way. Estonia, I spoke with the president of the federation, Radio Rand, and he said Estonia is not yet on a level where everything is about medals at the Olympics. We have just over 1 million inhabitants, and our country is young post-Soviet Union. In Paris, we won no medals at the Summer Olympics. In Beijing, we had just 1 bronze at the Winter Olympics. That was celebrated like a great win. If we get anywhere between 1 and 3 medals, our Olympics are a huge success. Generally, in our federations, just getting athletes to the Olympics is our goal, and that's why we get money from our government. If cyclocross becomes Olympic, I will probably be able to quadruple our budget for cyclocross at least, with the goal of getting 1 or 2 Estonians at the Olympics. Maybe 2030 is too early, but 2034 should be doable. We have a lot of steps to make. We need to learn from the best here in Belgium. Some of our riders here at the European Championships had never been able to ride through sand before. They came here to a beach and all of a sudden needed to run. They weren't used to running in cyclocross races. Our courses are nothing like this. We have a long way to go, but with more money we can come here more often. Perhaps we can also bring race organizers and local teams over so they can see how they train and race here. So, these countries here are also clearly thinking in another perspective, like either improving the number of people they have there, getting people there in the first place. Like alpine skiing always has people from all over the place. Like I thought last year there was or in Beijing there were people from Iran, like in the slalom, they just fill it up, 80 people going down, and a lot of countries get like their 1 or 2 participants in alpine skiing, even though many of those countries don't really have those opportunities, like Uganda, for instance. That was a very interesting article I read, that they, in skiing, set up something similar to the World Cycling Center, and they just brought like people over that they thought could potentially have a good feel for it, and just let them ski for a year, and then they threw them into the Olympics. So I think there could be some real movements coming from these countries, but like the Estonian president of the federation already said, it's a long way to go for them.
For sure, I think that it is it is difficult to start from basically nothing, not having any infrastructure, no, probably not even an idea of what you actually have to do, I guess, or maybe having that idea but not having enough support, or trying to get the support left and right, and it's all a puzzle, and that will always take time, and time will be crucial, I guess, in this project, because how much time will this project be given? That is, I guess, one of those questions that we are going to have for a while. I don't know when we are going to have those confirmations, or at least answers for those questions, but yeah, it is, I guess, when you hear all this, it is definitely hopeful. It is definitely going to solve. I don't know if it's really solving. I guess it's going to kind of bring that internationalization that we were hoping for, and that we wanted to see in the sport. If is it going to elevate those countries, I guess, in terms of where the level was before and where it will be at some point, for sure. But will that level be enough to battle it out and actually have riders in a top 10? Compared to, for example, the position that the Netherlands and Belgium are in currently, and France as well, and the Czech Republic and Italy are trying to get in. That is going to be, I think, a big question, but maybe we don't even have to approach it that way. Maybe we have to approach it more in the way how it is going in mountain bike, where it's already an achievement if you are within the top 30, I guess. And I feel that maybe at times when I hear certain people talking about it, I don't know how maybe we can round up with that, but I feel that the expectations at times when we're talking about the Olympics and cyclocross becoming Olympic are at times very, outrageous, and at times are very underwhelming as well. The expectation that people are thinking, either, oh, this is going to be a great success and we're going to have countries from all over the world trying to fight it out, battle it out for a podium, and then on the other hand, you hear, people say this is going to be a total failure and not even a single rider will be in the top 30. And I think that the truth is somewhere in between. Sure, it will change, I guess, in terms of new countries entering, and the interest will also grow outside of the countries that normally would participate in a cyclocross event or championship and all that. But it is also going to be a process that takes quite some time, and that will eventually, it will form and find its way to eventually, something that is working, and something that can actually work in the sense that that you can see the benefits from, and that you can see the riders actually being competitive in a sense. But I feel like that balance in terms of expectations from certain media outlets and people overall is hard to find, I guess. I don't know how you look at that, and yeah, I just hope that it will eventually help the sport in a positive way, and that the sport will grow. And it's definitely a very interesting story at the moment, that you can see that already countries are looking into how to get a program growing, and really looking already into trying to get something working out for the Olympic Games. While it's not even confirmed yet. It has to be confirmed. We probably know already that it will be, but it is interesting to see such a shift already in terms of the mentality for the federations in how they approach the sport and how they want to change that.
No, that's for sure interesting, and I think in Belgium overall, people expect that nothing will really change because they don't really see it themselves. Belgium is historically also not fully a nation that has embraced European sport or Olympic sport programs the same as other European countries. They have had mainly like cycling, but when they really started investing in field hockey, it started having success. And the Belgian biathlon program is honestly really impressive for a country that doesn't really have the ability to train for that. So I think that in itself, they had 2 athletes in the top 20 of the individual in Östersund in Sweden, one in 6th place in the women's individual, and then Lotte Lee was, I think, 16th or 18th. Like, that's really good results, and their overall results also on the men's side have been really good in Belgium in biathlon. So that, I think, in itself shows that if you just pump in the money to an extent, you get this success. The Netherlands spend 800,000 euros from the money on stuff like freestyle skiing just to qualify one guy for the final on the halfpipe or something. So it's an expensive undertaking, but I think that you can see just that money wouldn't be there if those sports weren't Olympic. And yes, maybe it doesn't lead to success right away, but I do think that if this becomes part in the long run of the Olympics, it will fundamentally change this sport. I've already put my shades back on because we've been talking for too long about my work and my stuff. It's time to hand it over to you, Issam. The shades are on because it's time for Issam's Mud Mountain. The leader is back.
Issam's Mud Mountain.
Yes, Issam, I hand it over to you. Take it away, my friend.
Well, we missed the leader. Hopefully you also missed somewhat the power ranking, but here we are back again. Tier 5, we go straight into the names. It's going to be Felipe Orts, Mees Hendricks, Pim Ronhaar, Viseure and Tom van der Bos, who are going to be your names for Tier 5. Where do I start? I guess with Orts. He has been having some sort of a siesta. I don't really know. This form has been a bit off currently. He is struggling, I guess, a little bit, but he's trying to find some form again in Spain. He will not be running the World Cup, but he will be racing the Copa España. I think the round number 8. I don't really know where, but he will be racing there. Ronhaar is a rider that I did not expect to be mentioning again in Tier 5. The way he started his season definitely didn't look that promising, but he started to grow into the season, and we thought that we somewhat were leaving Ronhaar Tier 5 away, far behind us, but that has not been the case, and back issues is definitely an issue for him, but I cannot really do much with that, and it just hasn't been going his way the last couple of races. So as we said before, it's so busy up there, so we had to make the decision. Viseure also has been off, and I feel with Van der Bos and Hendricks, they have done enough to be up there, but for both guys, they have to make sure that they step it up with performances, because they're definitely a group of riders that want to get in onto this ranking. Tier 4, we go to the names. Verstringen, Aerts, Jente Michels and Lars van der Haar. Some have been demoted, some have been promoted. I think that with Michels, for sure, I want to highlight that, his season, we have been talking about his season, that it is, that we're trying to find, these kind of moments in which we can say that, that they're tangible, a podium left or right, or maybe even a race win. But he hasn't had that so far, but we can definitely say that his performances overall has been quite strong, and I feel that definitely put him in a position that I could not really look around him, and he deserves to be there in Tier 4. Aerts demoted. I feel that he is just in a very bad period. Verstringen is someone that I let there in Tier 4 because I feel that he didn't really change much, and Lars van der Haar has been on the up, and I feel that he definitely deserves to be promoted, because I thought he was in Tier 5, now in Tier 4. Definitely a step up for him, and overall in his results you can see that as well, so I feel that he deserved that. Tier 3, we go to the names. Laurens Sveek, Michael van Toerenhout and Niels van de Putten. Van Toerenhout is just off. I don't know what happened, if the mental blow was just too much after the European Championship, but he has not been on it, and I have to say that I was a bit shocked with his results in the last couple of weekends. It just hasn't been it for the rider from Pau Bingo, or whatever the name is now, Altes, blah blah blah. But it hasn't been there for Van Toerenhout, so I feel that he has to step up, and at the moment I cannot really get around his demotion there, and from Tier 2 to Tier 3. Hopefully it can get better, but at the moment it's just not really there. Van de Putten, I wouldn't say consistent, but he has been up there, I guess, enough. And Laurens Sveek, where we were and where he is right now, starting from the bottom, and then now we're here in tier 3, I guess, for Laurens Sveek. Tier 2 then, the names. We go with Mason and Nieuwhuis. I feel that with Nieuwhuis, strong ride overall in the most of the races that he was able to ride well, and I think that he definitely has shown himself that when he has his day, he is a difficult rider to beat, and he is one of the best riders that we currently have in this field, so he deserves it for sure to be there. And Mason has been on the up, and I feel that I cannot get around him at the moment. He is, if you look at all the riders, he is one of the riders that made the biggest move, I guess, upwards and onwards. His results are up there. He has been riding phenomenally. If you look at that race in Tabor, for example, if he didn't have his lap 1, who knows where he would have finished, and then it would have been even more incredible. And he has been one of the riders that actually made it also difficult for our tier 1 rider, Thibaut Nys. I almost want to say enjoy your tier 1 while it's lasting, because Van der Poel is coming. But I feel that would be a bit of a negative take. And to be honest, he has been doing it quite well currently in the last couple of weeks. This is what we kind of wanted to see from Nys. We wanted to see this growth. The growth is definitely there. And he has now shown us, I guess, a little bit that he can win his races dominating, like we have seen in Tabor, just give it all full gas and see where it ends up. But he is also a rider that can finish it off in the last couple of laps, and that is, that even if it doesn't really go his way at times, that he can change that and put it into something positive. There are still some flaws in his game, but I feel that his game is getting better and better. Will it be enough to fend off Mathieu van der Poel? We have to wait and see, but I feel definitely that he is deserving of that tier 1. And that's it. That's the power ranking. That's where I'm going with my mud mountain. I cannot even pronounce it. The mud mountain is all done, and this is where you have to deal with.
The dynamic in Belgium was interesting this week, because Nys said, I don't think I can beat Van der Poel, but his entourage said they were looking at bringing the challenge to Van Aert. But in Belgium, they think that Van Aert is on the same level as Van der Poel. So in some way, his denial of being on the same level as Van der Poel was spinned into being on the same level as Van der Poel, because they think that Van Aert, with a different cyclocross preparation this year and more technical training and a stronger physical appearance, will be exactly the same as Van der Poel. So personally, I think we should be very, very cautious about assuming that Van Aert has had any different preparation, that we will see anything different than what we saw in Gullegem last year. I know that's your favorite race, Issam, but it's difficult. Like, I think if Van Aert really goes for it, he can really be a challenger on a number of courses to Van der Poel. But to me, Van der Poel is the better cyclocross rider. I do think that Nys is potentially able to mount a challenge on a course or two. I don't think he's on that level yet to always do it or to be a contender for the world title. But I do think that we should see an improvement from last year. I do think we are already seeing that. And based on that, where he was in the Christmas period last year, think for instance about the race in Loenhout, think also about the race in Zonhoven. The performances we saw there were good and encouraging to think that he could maybe, like, I don't know, how rusty is Van der Poel when he's coming in? Like, we've seen him make mistakes in his first races. Nys needs to be on top of his game, but Namur is not the course for Van der Poel. It would be his first participation since 2020. 2020 he was pushed to the limit by Van Aert and Pidcock. A year before, Toon Aerts was leading that race for a very long time. Like, that is not one of his strong courses. You need to grasp if you want Nys to win. But I think, like you said, he is well worthy of the first spot. Mason on tier 2, fully agree with that. He's been really strong. For the rest, it's difficult. Maybe Van der Haar is soon worthy of a place up. But we discussed a lot of this already last week, Issam, in the podcast from Flamand View, and to an extent also in Tabor. a lot of riders have gone like completely lights out after the European Championships. Like Ronhaar, he has back issues, which we already speculated from what I saw on course in Flamanville. But after that, like nowhere. Don Aert's been sick, also not really. I think he has one top 10 post winning that European title. Sveek has been on the up, but like conversely, Joran Wiesure, like a horrible streak of results for him. So it's interesting to see that dynamic play out with such inconsistencies, and where riders go down, other riders benefit. So I guess my question kind of is, who would you say is currently, like from one rider, the one at risk of being demoted either off the mountain or to a lower tier?
I think, to be honest, I would say they're almost all at risk, because if you look at a rider like Van Toerenhout for sure, and Aerts as well. With Van Toerenhout, I don't really know what is going on with him. With Aerts, as you said, illness is definitely not helping him, or didn't help him, and we hopefully we will see him again a bit, in better form. It is just difficult, I guess, to guess what is going to happen, because this Christmas period is coming up. There are certain riders, for example, with an Aerts, we did not expect him to be the favorite for or to win the European Championships, but there he was. And I feel that this season, we were saying it is almost like we have three parts already that we have witnessed so far this season. We had the part, the sort of the road to the European Championship. Then we had this period after the European Championship that has gone horrible for some and quite good for others. And now we are closing into the Christmas period, in which I think we might see a completely different shift. I mean, maybe a rider like Michels, I don't really expect him to dip all that much in results. I don't think that will happen that much. But for example, Van Toerenhout, definitely a rider that I could see improve again and get those top fives and podiums and be closer to the front again. With Mason, I am afraid that a setback could happen. I don't think it will happen, but I'm afraid it could happen. And that is actually something that, for example, also with a Sveek, it has been all on the up. But when we are going to get to those courses that don't suit him as well, I don't know what will happen. If we get to courses that suits him well, which he will also get some during the Christmas period, what will we see then? I think, if you look at the signs right now, it is promising that in a race like, for example, Diegem, I think that Sveek then could play a very, very, very big role there. So it is currently just a very difficult situation, I guess, for me, but also for the viewer, the casual viewer overall as well. To you don't really know who to count on. There are certain riders that have done all right in the last couple of races, but there have been also lots of on and off. So it's for me very hard to give you names and really pinpoint who is going to do what. I feel that for example, Wiesure or Verstringen, those are two guys that I feel that they will have their better days. It's just a question of when that will be the case, and we just at the moment we are in the business of guessing. I think that after Namur, when we head into that Christmas period, Namur will tell us something, will tell us half the story, and I think that opening weekend of the Christmas period will tell us the rest of the story. And from there is, the story is already told. I don't think there is, like, a rider like Sveek is someone that definitely could make a difference from race to race, but certain riders don't have that ability, and if they have a certain form entering the Christmas period, it will only be worse when they exit it. So, and then already when you exit it, you're already looking into nationals and even worlds somewhat. So it's going to be super interesting to follow. And I feel that we have, that definitely, if you look in that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, even tier 5, it's quite close. And I think a lot of shifts can be made in terms of riders moving up, but also riders moving down, in my opinion.
For me, Wiesure would be the one who is currently most at risk, simply because his results have not been good at all since the European Championships. No real explanation from it in any media, so as
pressing
much for
doesn't help.
Wiesure. No, it doesn't help, but I mean, how many DNFs have there been? How many other total off days? So You're right, like things can be turned around. I personally don't see a setback for Mason happen, and you're right, like Sveik is more course prone, but that's also the beauty of the sport. Like no two races are the same. In a broader sense, what you're referring to is the 6 seasons of cyclocross. You have the early season in September, US racing, some racing in Europe. Nobody really cares too much about it. It doesn't matter at all. Then you get pre-European Championship racing. Then you get the November period, which we are in now. After that, you get the Christmas period, which is indeed starting with Namur and lasts until the national championships. Then you get the World Championship phase, which is 3 weeks. But it's really hard to turn things around between the Christmas period, because the Christmas period is inherently tied into the national championships. Like in Belgium, every single race, and we will too be falling prone to that narrative. Like it's not a criticism, but at some point in the Christmas period, everything will be like, oh, who becomes Belgian champion? Is Van Aert going to be it? Is Nijs going to be it? Is there going to be a duel? Is anybody else going to be on that level? What about in the Netherlands? Van der Poel is not going. So can Ronhaar do it then? Or is it going to be Del Grosso who's starting his season soon? Or can Lars van der Haar pull it off when he's retiring? Can maybe Joris Nieuwhuis do it? Like, those dynamics are going to start to play. And after that, everything comes in function. You have the Spanish training camp, but then Benidorm, and especially Maasmechelen-Hoogerheide, everything in function of the World Championships. And then the 6th season of cyclocross is post-World Racing, another season nobody really cares about. So in fact, there's 4 seasons, with the last one being my favorite, the pre-World Championship stint. So a lot can change. And with that, we will now move to my power rankings, Noah's 9.
Catch the heat! Noah's 9.
Right then. Let's dive in. Coming in on number 9, Shirin van Anrooy. She's had a solid start to her season. She was 6th in Flamanville. I've personally been impressed by her results. They would be slightly higher than my expectations. Her ride in Tabor from the last start row, because she had 0 UCI points, was very good. I am very much looking forward to seeing her at Christmas, because what we do know, and I'm curious how those skills translate, but she was a very, very good sand rider, and that I would like to see as well. Combine that with her running, I would like to see that in, for instance, Kokzijde. Then on number 8 we have Marie Schreiber, the Luxembourg champion. She has had a somewhat unfortunate start to her season. She was quite good in Hamme, was in podium contention, eventually finished 4th, but she needed to run to the finish. She pulled one of her muscles there. That was the reason she didn't perform in Tabor, and she skipped Flamanville. She will be back in Sardinia this weekend. I am still very encouraged by what I've seen for her, but slightly lower because of that injury. 7th place then, Leonie Bentveld has been consistent this season. She's had a few outliers upwards, but what has been the case this year is that many races have not had everybody present. So Bentveld currently on 7th place. I think we can see more for her potentially when the courses become muddy. 6th place, Amandine Foucounet off a podium in Flamanville. A great performance by her. It's been a very good season. She's had a couple of outliers, maybe a bit more than Bentveld, this 2nd place being one of them. Also, podium in Ruddervoorde, for instance. So for her, a very encouraging season. We discussed it extensively in Flamanville. Somebody please sign Amandine Foucounet, or do I need to make a sign again like I did for Vincent Bastaans a number of years ago in Namur? 5th place, Sandra Carmen Alvarado. She finally was able to start her season after a long injury in Flamanville. Very good ride by her there. Immediately on the podium. Technically it looked good. I'm still a bit hesitant for the potential small setback. The effect that the freshness has on her now, kind of inflating her performance. It can also head the other way. So for now, just a very cautious 5th place. She is behind 4th place finisher, or ranked 4th now, I should say, Aniek van Alphen, the winner in Flamanville. She's had a very good season, consistently up there, many podiums, many wins. That win in Flamanville is one that will stick with me for a while, but overall, over the last couple of weeks, Inger van der Heijden, who is still in 3rd on my ranking, has been slightly better. These two are quite evenly matched over the season. Van der Heijden still holds the edge now, but Van Alphen could potentially take over. She is leading the World Cup and will defend that leading position in Sardinia, so we will see how Van der Heijden, the European champion, deals with that. Then 2nd place, Sara Casasola. She didn't race Flamanville, but she's been very good this season. She's been good recently, because that's the most important thing to look at. Her 2nd place in Tabor was strong. She kind of had a mini comeback in that race from a not so great start, but Still on number 1. Lost only twice this season. Lucinda Brandt. How else should I go about this than just put her in first place? It's been a tremendous season. She wasn't in Flamanville either, but we will see how she does when she comes back. But for now, I have no reason to doubt Lucinda Brandt on top of Noah's 9.
Yeah, it's. I think that we are still in the waiting game, are we? I guess that that is how I feel. It's like. And then you have someone like Schreiber coming back, and you're like, okay, now now it's gonna kick off, and then it's like, let's just wait a little bit more. We're still waiting on the return of Van Empel. Hopefully, that will come soon as well. And in all that, I feel like Brandt held her own very strongly, and we should not, do anything of her performance or of her performance overall. That she is, she's been able just to be the best currently in the field. And do you think that is something that we will see also in the Christmas period? I don't think there is any doubt that her consistency will probably go over that as well. And do you feel that there are going to be races in which she will have it difficult? And what type of races do you think that will maybe that are potentially able to put a challenge on?
Now you're asking me to look in the glass and kind of look into the future. I mean, you're right about the waiting game. We're still waiting on Van Empel, Pietersen, maybe Namur, maybe later. We have Alvarado back, but still we're waiting to see what her ceiling is this season. Backstedt not there yet, Vash not there yet, or not fully there. Schreiber not fully fit. Like, those are some of the top runners we are still waiting on. So it's curious. I don't really know too much. Like, I don't think Brandt will win every single race. I refuse to believe in this walkover scenario. I do think that Van Empel will have the opportunity to beat her. What type of courses? That depends on the rider. Like, honestly, Casasola should also be able to challenge Brandt on a number of courses. And for that, I think Casasola should be looking, for instance, at Namur. That should be a good course for her. I know that despite like her results not always being up there in that race, it should be a real opportunity for her. That should be like the climbing, the mud. The only worry for me is the technical. Like, can she keep that up in that race? But Dendermonde, for instance, if that's muddy, Sarah Casasola, like, I want to see it. I want to see you bring that bite, and I want to see you like fight Brandt. I believe in it also. Van Empel, she's become quite versatile, but her strength should normally be more in a semi-fast race. Maybe the more sandy races. Pietersen, the more technical races, like for instance Gavere, Namur. So I do think there's a number of people that have the potential to challenge. For Pietersen, I think my question is more overarching, like how does she come into the season? We know that she burnt out at the end of the road season, which also translated to the mountain bike. So let's see how she comes in. Maybe that finally a long rest period is paying off and she'll be better than last year, because last year she never really was able to put a foot between the door. And if she's fresh, let's hope she can. So I think Brandt will be always up there, like that podium streak, it better keep going. But I do think there will be challengers to her. We saw Van Empel like early in the season strong in the races that Brandt didn't do. So let's see how that goes. I mean, I'm curious, and I think there can be a real interesting dynamic, but probably not as much yet in Sardinia. But it does feel like we're really coming to that point, and this year more so on the women's side than in previous years, where the fight is really going to commence. I'm looking forward to Namur. I'm going to that race, so it should be a nice day out, Issam. And with that, we should probably conclude this episode as well, with Sardinia up this weekend for us to speak about.
We want to speak about it right now?
No, I think we said enough in the beginning about the start list, and we'll just watch the race, watch the course, and then we'll take it all in between the whole country going crazy for Formula 1 last race of the season as well.
I want it on the record. Who's going to be the world champion?
And the world champion this year is going to be Lucinda Brandt.
That's a good one. I had to specify. You're right. I had to specify. No, but I will probably have it on the big screen in Formula 1, and then on the smaller screen I will be watching the cyclocross. I'm sorry, but I have to. I have to. But it's, that's going to be only one time and one time only. Normally I don't do it, but now I will probably do it. It's... it is what it is, and the starting field didn't help, so I have to do what I have to do. But hopefully, I still hope that the racing will be good, because honestly, I feel, you said that the organizers probably, they don't really look into, they have sort of other motives in a way, so maybe the starting field is not their biggest concern, I guess. But I still hope that the racing is entertaining, that it will be all right. Because I feel like for the sport as well, it's gonna be somewhat of a bad look if the course doesn't really look great and the starting field is not really there. Because then, you look at the World Cup and you're like, what are we doing here? This could be a Exactcross somewhere in Belgium. Where is the Italian touch that we kind of want to see in a race? So I just hope that it will be all right, that it will be a good look for the viewers. I will be tuning in for sure, and we'll see what it will bring. And Formula 1 will also be on the big screen, as I said, and I will be watching that, and hopefully we'll have there a good race as well.
2 months without Exactcross, and they still managed to get slandered in the podcast. Issam, I'm sorry, if you ever decide to leave the podcast, which doesn't pay you money, to earn money, Golazzo, I don't think they will be hiring you, and I don't think they will ever be hiring me either after this. Honestly, even
Flanders Classics
might
will
be a stretch. No, yeah, they might hire you to fix it, but I've been too negative about it as well and too cynical, so we're shooting ourselves in the foot here. But no, thank you again so much for your time, and we'll see the action. I mean, I agree with those points about the course, and I'm curious to see what they made. Last year's course I don't think was actually that bad. It was fast, it was a bit rocky, but it at least had these man-made hills and the sand, so now they pivoted away, and I don't know if they've built anything there. There's been no pictures out yet. Great marketing, guys. It's Thursday evening, 10:30, and we haven't seen anything yet from it. They've never posted results from the World Cup. Only the UCI posts the standings. Every time somebody wins, you come with a hollow one-liner, what a ride, or what a performance. This is what he does. Means nothing.
This is what he does.
So, thank you. This is what I do. You flipped the switch in that point about the Exactcross, and the marketing came forward too much in this episode. So that will be it. I'm still in positive spirits, and I'm sure I will be in positive spirits as well this Sunday. I've been really enjoying this cross season so far. A few dynamics, maybe not as good as last year, but I do still think it's been a good one. Thanks again so much, Issam. We are back this Sunday talking about the Sardinian World Cup. See you guys then. Goodbye.
Do.